Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 46.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
Hi there, it's Toby Jenkins from the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. This is the show for people who love marketing on the web. Today we're going to take you behind the scenes of the Growth Faculty, and I've got Karen Beatty, the founder of the Growth Faculty, with me today as our guest, and she's been fantastic in terms of sharing the good, the bad and the ugly and what's worked and what hasn't worked as well for her. And one of the things I think that really was highlighted for me today was the importance of strategic alliances. And Karen has been really generous in terms of sharing some of the things and even to the detail of questions that she asks in terms of how she goes about building fantastic strategic alliances. And that has really been how she has grown and expanded her business dramatically over those 10 years. So this show is brought to you by our new book, Web Marketing That Works, and specifically the 33 free templates that go with it. So jump on over to bluewiremedia.com.au/book to grab those templates. And thanks so much. Let's get on with the show. So I'm really excited to have Karen Beatty from the Growth Faculty with me today. I first met Karen when I attended one of her Growth Faculty workshops. Karen, I think it was with Vern the first time. Anyway, Karen has hosted some of the best business events that I've attended. She's secured superstar presenters like Jim Collins, who's coming very soon to Australia, David Meerman-Scott, Brian Halligan, Vern Harnish, Liz Wiseman and Tim Ferriss, all of whom have had a huge impact on my business life and my personal life in many cases too. So thanks so much, Karen, for being the facilitator of an enormous amount of learning for me for over a decade now, really.
Well, that's great to know, Toby. And yeah, thanks for this opportunity to have a chat. I think I recall the time when I first met you and Adam, and it was in Brisbane at the Ridges Hotel. And it was one of the very first times I brought Vern to Australia. So yeah, it's been a long relationship. So
it has indeed. And we've been hooked ever since. And Karen, actually, it's your 10th birthday this year, is it, for the Growth Faculty?
Yeah. Back in, May 2013 would have been 10 years because we launched the business in May 2003. And we did our very first event with Michael Gerber in October 2013. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a decade of bringing superstars out to Australia. And so, yeah, I mean, on that, can you give us a bit of a rundown of the Growth Faculty? What's the overview of the business? What's your team like? How does it operate? What's the core offering?
Sure. Okay. Well, at a basic level, we're an education provider for entrepreneurs and leaderships of growing businesses. So our real core market is really SMEs. And the reason why we exist is we give small to medium-sized companies access to international thought leaders and authors who really provide tools and frameworks to help business drive profitable growth. And driving profitable growth is the key there. Big end of town are pretty well catered for. They've got the budgets. They can bring in these thought leaders into their business. However, we bring them and put them in a public forum so that SMEs can get access to the same level of content. So what we do is we source the world's best content and bring them to Australia and present them in a series of workshops of which you're familiar with. And really, the focus, again, as I said, is on practical information. So our program consists of a national conference. So we've been running that, the Growth Summit, every year for the past 8 years. And Toby, you've been to quite a few of those.
Sure have.
And really our core offering is a one-day workshop with these international thought leaders. And you've mentioned a couple of them, Vern Harnish with the one-page strategic plan, Liz Wiseman on her leadership product, Jack Daly on sales. And so they form the core offering of our program. And we also run a global leadership series, which is the fun side of things, where we host CEOs from around the world who are considered leaders in their industry. And they've included, Martha Stewart, Muhammad Yunus, Russell Simmons, Samartan Sorrell, just to name a few. So that's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. And so, when you were first getting started, why did you start?
Well, it all started really, we won a contract. I mean, I was a PCO, a professional conference organizer in my early days, and we organized all of MYOB's GST seminars when GST got implemented back in 2000. So this is going way back. And we put in, 40,000 business owners into 140 seminars across Australia over 8 months. And so it was a pretty amazing project there, and we turned over $5 million for MYOB. And at that point, we were on the receiving end of a lot of phone calls and, hearing a lot of the issues of small business. And I thought, wouldn't it be great? I know GST was like a critical, must-have information, but wouldn't it be great to provide business management style offering to this market? And so we launched with Michael Gerber. And that was really my vision. And it's been, the reason why we exist is to be able to provide high-value content that can really help SMEs out, grow their business, manage their teams, drive profitability, that kind of thing. So, we're a small team. There's 4 of us, and we're based in Manly. But we do have an extensive sort of virtual team spread all through Australia. We've got some in the US, Philippines, and South Africa. And my aim is to build a scalable business while keeping a small core team supported by a virtual team of experts. So, that's really where we're heading. So,
good stuff. And so to get 40,000 business owners across all of those events for MYOB, and then consistently the Growth Summit each year has been a great event as well and extremely well attended. I would say it's probably one of the best business events in Australia, certainly that I've been to. How do you go about getting those people in the room? What's your marketing philosophy around that? And can you share some of the stories there?
Sure. I guess our core philosophy or our core value around marketing is high integrity, right? So we go out with the intention, we actually deliver on what we say we're going to. And so our 3 sort of key points or, a positioning statement, if you want, is global best faculty. So we definitely find you the best speakers. Even if you hadn't heard of them before, if you come to a growth faculty event, and I think you're sort of probably aware of that now, that no matter what, you're going to get really fantastic content. And it's practical, results focused, and it's strategic, ongoing curriculum, right? So around those 3 points, our marketing, all our messaging, our language, our content, all our speakers align with that. And we're getting, we're now starting to get known about that. So we just make sure that we deliver what we're saying we're going to deliver. And we do that on a regular basis. And those that come to our events on a regular basis, maybe stay away for a couple of years and then come back, know that they are going to get quality. And we get that over and over again. And so we build our client base through strategic alliances with industry associations because we do offer something unique that they aren't able to offer their members. And so when they come on board, they know they're offering something over and above which they're able to do. And that's when the relationship kind of works. And that's how we've built our business, really, through those strategic alliances. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And so what's an example of a strategic alliance then?
Strategic alliance is really, so for instance, we would go to an industry body. So let's take the Institute of Chartered Accountants, for instance. They've been big supporters of ours for a very long time. So, they represent business advisory group people. And so we would go to them and say, look, your members come to you for tax, accounting, super, the technical updates. And that's what the Institute is known for. They align with us because we really focus on business management. Therefore, we're bringing you the global best. So therefore, they go out to their members going, hey, we have secured, a partnership with the growth faculty. We think this will be fantastic for your businesses and for your clients. And in doing so, they offer a deal to their members as well. So, and when the Institute goes out to their members, they are endorsing the event. So obviously they're saying this is worthwhile. We have done the due diligence for you, which is an accounting term.
very
so we've done
isn't it?
So, we've done due diligence, and that obviously is the influence, it's getting the influences in the marketplace. And that's what the professional industry associations really act as, are influencers for us to reach markets and the segments of the SME market that we need to get access to. I think our biggest challenge is we're so broad, we don't target verticals, right? So we have the whole range of industries coming to our events, but then that makes it tougher to market. It's a lot easier, to go after a vertical and be able to market to a vertical than it is across the broad business. So, we've tackled verticals that way.
Yeah, and so does that mean you've put in place sort of multiple partnerships across different industry associations and that sort of thing? Is that part of your strategy?
Yeah, it has been actually. There's some industries that are very focused on education, more so than others, and the big professional industry associations. So they're the ones that we really we make a priority, where education is a big part of their philosophy, CPE. And to a certain extent, we provide CPE for business owners on a management style basis. So,
yeah. So, to that, the Growth Summit, does it then contribute to CPE points for the Institute of Chartered Accountants?
Yes, it does, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's self-valued too, so they submit that to their industry. So, I know for the accountants, they have 20 hours CPE and they can do that through reading, through online stuff, through attending seminars. And really it's self-evaluated. So yes, absolutely. And generally across all industries, we would be viable for CPE hours for sure.
Right. I guess that's
a commonly asked question.
Yeah. Well, it must be a great thing to be able to say yes to, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
That means they're getting two birds and one stone out of the process too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's something that they have to do. In terms of sort of building those relationships, how would you go about actually building that partnership? When did it start in terms of the growth faculty history? And then how did you go about, what were the steps that you took to actually make that into a formal partnership?
Well, I've had a long relationship with the Institute. I actually used to work with them when I first came to Sydney. So they're kind of a unique one because it has built on relationships. But as you know, with all organisations, there's change of staff, restructuring. So, through all my relationships with the Institute Chartered Accountants, it's sort of changed through the years. So if we took a brand new alliance or industry association, I don't necessarily go, to any and everybody. I sort of handpick them where I think that our content would be of value. So it's really important to say, look, what do you need? What are the gaps in your education program? And it's also acknowledging the fact that they've got their own education program, right? Yeah. And it is to a certain degree, it's you're also competing on share of wallet, right? So when associations come on board, it is really a mentality of abundance, right? Going, yeah, okay, we can't be everything to our members. And this is really quality product. And when they actually do agree, this is when it really reaffirms that we've got something unique and something that they can't necessarily offer. That's what I like about it. It kind of, reaffirms our reason for existence, really. So I always start with questions like, what do you need from us? What do you need in order to make this relationship work for you, right? Or this event work for you specifically? And a lot of the time it's a branding exercise. It's a membership drive. They do membership drives at the event. The Australian Institute of Management, we offer them the bookshop because, again, a lot of speakers are authors. We're not really set up to deliver books on site, but we do want to offer that to our delegates. So we go to the Australian Institute of Management, who do it very well through their management bookshops, and we give them that opportunity, and that's hugely valuable for them. So it's got to be a win-win. And, I always start as, what can we do for you before, we then say, well, we can offer you that. Would you do this in return for us? Because this is what's important for us. And being very clear and upfront about what you want out of the relationship. For us, it's always bums on seats. It's like bottom line. That's straightforward. We just, BOS, bums on seats. So, it's being very clear about that. And it's building the trust and saying, again, just doing what you say you're going to do and supporting them that way. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's great, Karen. That's really good. I mean, even just down to that question, what do you need to make this work? I mean, that's a brilliant question to ask if you're looking to build strategic partnerships, and I'm sure our listeners would be, absolutely. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Across the full, range of any relationship that you start, it's like, what's in it for them? You've got to start with that question in every aspect of business. So
completely agree. So what have been your major aha moments then so far, in a decade of business? Have there been any real turning points for you?
Oh, gosh, there's been many, I can say. As you know, being a business owner yourself.
Indeed.
There's constant, never-ending learning. Just when you think you've got it all nailed, there's something else pops up. But I guess there's one that really stands out. And as a small business operator, you're not really in a position to hire specialists in your business, right? So you hire a person for a general role and they have to cover all aspects of that particular function. Take the marketing role as an example, right? It covers a number of elements and tasks, right? Which includes, advanced use of technology, analyzing data, administering and tailoring CRM systems, building and maintaining websites, copywriting, SEO, social media, it goes on, email marketing, building alliance partnerships. It's huge, right? From a marketing perspective, I've hired a marketing manager. They basically got to get across all of that because we're a four-man organization or four-person organization. So rather than have one person in that role to cover all those tasks, I've now started outsourcing all elements of that role. And I now have a virtual team of specialists who are excellent at what they do. So we've outsourced SEO, social media. And I think it's become a lot easier to do that. And,
how have you done that, Karen, if you don't mind my asking?
What, outsourcing?
Yeah.
Well, there's people that specialize in SEO. So, we've tried and tested a couple, but we've found...
Local Australian, overseas?
Yeah, well, our SEO specialists happen to be in South Africa, right. But they do business here, and I did meet them here in Australia, right? And they've been absolutely excellent, Social media, I've outsourced, and the content producer role, I've also outsourced to a journalist, an ex-BRW journalist, right? She's excellent, right?
Yeah.
I'll never be able to write as she does. She does a book club. She interviews our authors, so that's just working a treat. And I think after being 10 years in business, you get to know people that you have done business with, and you start having your list of who you would love to have on board your team. And you definitely source people that are better than you at that. So, for our marketing manager now, their role is to manage those experts, ask the right questions, right? And ensure the projects, our projects meet targets and get delivered on time. And us as a group are always learning from our virtual team, Yeah. So we've got a team in the Philippines updating our database and keeping that clean, because obviously that's the core asset to our business. We've got our web developers in the Sunshine Coast. Our content producers are down in Melbourne. I also get sort of copywriters from the US, because they seem to be very good at that when it comes to sales copy, brochure copy. Yeah, I think it's just through relationships and asking for recommendations as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's interesting, because I know that's a major challenge for a lot of people that we talk to too, is that, building a marketing function when there's so many specialties, as you identified in that original list. There's so many things that no one person can genuinely keep on top of.
Absolutely. Or be very good at, there's a lot of learning, and be very, very good at it. I mean, it's good to have an overall understanding, so you know what to ask of your experts or your virtual team.
Yeah.
And I've done the same with the events role as well, employed events manager, and part of that role, they're just interested in putting the events together. That's their area of strength. But as part of that, you've got to do registrations, and they're willing to do that as far as it impacts the event. But when it comes to, developing the relationship with that person who comes to our event in the broader sense of the CRM system that we use, they're not really that interested, right? So I've broken that role into two as well. So it's purely logistics, someone on a part-time basis, and we've got a registration customer service who loves the database, and registrations now forms part of that role, and it works a treat.
Great. That's awesome. Karen, let's jump into some marketing experiments then for the growth faculty.
Okay.
Seeing as that's what this show is really focusing on, but it's so good to hear that background, I think, from a business side of things, because I think, the management of a marketing function, as I said, is just so important to having it work. So then you can actually run experiments, I guess. Let's start off with some good stuff. What's worked well? What hasn't? What do you think is your biggest strength as a business from a marketing standpoint?
I guess what worked really that stands out for us was our rebrand back in 2010. When I launched the business, it was called Business Connect in 2003. And over the years, the business had evolved substantially. So in 2010, we wanted to move from being known as an events company promoting international speakers on an ad hoc basis to an educational company providing ongoing curriculum for SME companies, right, to help them drive profitable growth. Yeah. So we took our time and we went through this process step by step. That's the hardest thing, is taking your time, right? So, and there's absolutely no point in rebranding if it does not make sense to your customers, right? So the process had to pass two tests. One, that what you're planning to do really matters to your existing and potential customers. And second, that it differentiates you from your competitors, right? And, to answer the question, what are we best in the world at? So the first step we took was we did a full day workshop with a company called BrandQuest, who were great, to identify what we do. We've had, at that point we had 7 years experience, really sort of get clear about what we do, who we serve, why we do it, followed by what our messaging, what do we say to our target market, how do we say it? And we got really clear through that process. And the outcome of that workshop was the actual confirmation that we did need to rebrand, and to match the vision of where we wanted to go. And also the growth faculty name came out of that workshop. So that started the process. And second, we then surveyed our customers, right? And asked them some simple questions. So, why do you come to our events? what three words make, come to mind when you think of us? How can we add value to your business? Or what more can we do? What should we keep doing? What should we stop doing? And, where else do you go for your information for business growth? And we found there were consistencies and patterns that we picked up that aligned with what came out of the workshop as well. We engaged a design consultancy. We developed our new logo, our tagline. They added further depth and input to the strategy and process. And we really invested time and money into that as well because, they were an integral part of the process. And it's kind of easy to go out to a design company and just get them to form a logo, to build a logo for you. But if you get a design strategy that can actually add value to there, that was really important. And, we did invest and that actually paid off. And then, fourth, we confidently went out and launched a new brand at our flagship event, Growth Summit. And we nailed it. Our customers loved it, but it's all those steps that we took that kind of led to that. And I think that was something that we were really, really proud of. And all through now, 4 or 5 years down the track, we still go back to that workshop. We still align with all the messaging that came out of there, and it provides consistency, and I think that's what's the key to our marketing. It's consistency of message. And I think that's what's important for a lot of businesses too, is to keep consistent for your clients.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's a very positive rebranding experience when I certainly haven't heard too many, to be honest.
Is that right?
So, no, it's fantastic. And it's great to hear the detail that goes into it as well. So that's really interesting.
There was, you did ask about what's the ugly and were there any catastrophes. There was an element of that rebranding that was a catastrophe, and that was building the new website, right?
Yeah, okay. Let's dig into that. This is a bit of a common issue that we were talking, before we started the interview, but let's dig into that.
Well, so obviously with the rebranding, we decided to redevelop our whole website, right? So, and all I can recommend is just do not build a new website to an immovable deadline, right? I think most people I've spoken to, and that was our key mistake. Well, I think our first mistake was we actually engaged the wrong provider who basically said that they could deliver on all the specs that we wanted and they couldn't. So that was number one. So obviously, if you have the right provider, you may not have this issue. But having that immovable deadline, which was our growth summit, which we, redid all our branding to deliver on that day, present it to our audience. Here we are. And the website was not ready. The functionality was not ready. And so I spent, 2 weeks before the Growth Summit trying to find solutions to make it happen. It's like we couldn't turn up at the event as the growth faculty and our website still be Business Connect. That was the reality of our situation. So
sure.
That was going to be a complete disaster. But somehow, a couple of days beforehand, the front end was fine. It was the back end that needed work. So somehow we had the front end of the new website and we plugged in our old website into the back end. And
that'll do.
That worked for 3 months for us and no one knew none the wise. Everyone thought the whole transition was quite smooth. And I remember sending an email out the morning of the Growth Summit at 6 a.m. because we still hadn't been able to launch to say that we had rebranded. So 6 a.m. on the morning of the Growth Summit, we sent an email out going, hey, everybody, when you arrive at this summit in 2 hours' time, we're not going to be Business Connect any longer. We're going to be the growth faculty. And it gave us a couple of days to buy time for those that weren't part of the growth faculty to get the website. So I spent the whole, 48 hours at the growth summit trying to, get the website up and running. So when people left the event, it was the growth faculty website. And then we went out to the rest of our, membership base to say, hey, here we are. But
as much as you really hate the immovable deadline, it does force decisions on you, doesn't it? It forces you to make decisions to get something actually up and running, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. You're right. And
at an emotional cost by the sounds of things.
Yeah, you get very creative, and it's interesting because I had my, incumbent web team, and I had to bring the two of them together, which was quite interesting. But in the end, they knew they had to make it happen. So they made it. But the website is an interesting process. I don't know many people that go through that process without it being a little stressful at some level. And I don't know why.
Looking back on it, what would you do differently?
Select the right developer. That's all. I think that's really what the key was at the end of the day, because everything else went smoothly. And I think we had an existing website and processes that we loved. So it was just kind of like, can you duplicate this? But I think the whole kind of platform was outdated, so we had to update our platform. What would I have done differently? Just select the right supplier. That's what it's down. It's getting the right team on board, right? Back to basics.
Yep.
Right team on board. And you can only put up your hand and go, well, I selected the wrong team, the wrong team for the job. And that's what I would have done differently, I think.
So was it a planning thing as well? I mean, were they sort of clear on what needed to happen?
From my perspective, I thought because we were very clear because we had an existing website with the back end, and I took them through all of that and say we need it to do exactly what it's doing now, but on an updated platform, whatever that meant. I don't understand the technology, but whatever that meant. It's not like they were starting from scratch when it came to the back end. What happened is they said that they could do it, but they were building on a system, like a content management system that couldn't provide that functionality. Our registration system is highly tailored. It's highly tailored to what we need. It's not an off-the-shelf thing. So, and they knew that from the start. And look, I just think they wanted the job, and I got blindsided with a person who said that they could deliver and said they understood. So, it's a good question because, a web developer might look at my brief and go, well, maybe it wasn't exactly what it needed to be. But of course, at the time, I felt that it was, especially since we had a template to go,
Especially why, sorry?
Especially as we had a template to work off. We weren't sort of going, recreate this. We want different processes. Yeah. This is our process that works. And, this is what we've been doing for the past 7 years. We need it to continue exactly as it is, Yeah. So.
Challenges, hey?
Three sides to every story, Toby.
Indeed. Oh, good work, Karen. No, well, thanks for sharing it. I often find that you learn a lot from your mistakes, and sometimes it can be, and it helps for others to know that people are going through this and sharing the same pain. So I'm sure there'll be people out there listening who have this same website issue. So hopefully they can get around it themselves as well.
Absolutely.
So if you were starting your marketing from nothing then, Karen, where do you think you'd start?
Just as I started, actually, is building relationship with key influencers, who have access to your core market. If you really want to get that reach, that's how I built my business, and I would do that again, I've done a lot of advertising and PR, and that just has not worked as well. And going out with, having something to offer of value, and finding out what that is. But those alliance partnerships are kind of key. And I think you've touched on that in your book, when you talk about influencers and what you need to do with regards to that. It's about giving before taking, really. That's, true in marketing, and that's where the content marketing is really building momentum around that, is giving something of value for you to take from your customers. So,
No, that's really true. One thing I did want to talk to you about was you've obviously built up a database yourself over the years. How effective is your email marketing? Are you happy to share some stories around your email?
Yeah, email is a big part of what we do, and we try and minimize our communication. I think in the past, because we, saying that we provide content, the main source we provide content through is obviously workshops, right? So we're now starting to provide content online through our Growth Faculty TV. But I think we're known as, every time we go and send an email out to our database, it's really around an event. And we used to do it, once a month. And so our open rates are quite high, above the 30%. Now that we're doing newsletters every couple of weeks, it's slowly gaining. We started out at about 16, 17, 18%, and we're now moving into the mid-20s. The feedback we're getting is quality information. But the challenge is obviously getting the cut through with email now is just people are just bombarded. We're actually trying to figure out a way that we can do less with email marketing. We cannot fully rely on email marketing to fill our events. We actually do a component of direct mail. Because our seminars or workshops, come with a $600 value, people want to know what they're getting for that. And direct mail still forms a big part of what we do. Not everyone, because not all our members sign up and want emails from us. They say, look, we know when your events are happening, we'll come, just don't contact us. We have a group that are like that. We're just too busy right now, but we will take time out of an office to come for a day, but just don't.
I'm not really. A day, just not 5 minutes.
Yeah. In the nicest possible way, of course. And then there's others. So we do direct mail for those that don't accept our email. And we get fantastic response from that because we do, our brochures. A lot of people say that people don't read them anymore, but they need to know what they're getting for that $600, and especially if they're bringing their teams. So direct mail as well as email work well for us.
Great. That's interesting to sort of double up as well. Is it completely distinct in terms of those that get email and those that get direct mail? Or are there some groups that get both?
There is an overlap. But if we know that people are getting our emails and read them, we do not send them a direct mail. There's absolutely no point. So we're very clear about who opens our emails, who's active. So, absolutely they don't get direct mail because we know that they are aware of what's going on. So,
Sure.
Yeah, and there is a slight overlap. There's a lot of people that don't open our email, so we definitely send them a direct mail.
Yep. Oh, no, that's good to have that loop, sort of closing of the loop, I guess. So then, you're aware of your customers' preferences and styles and what have you.
Yeah, people absorb different, information in different ways, and I think it's really important to be able to, tailor to your customers' wishes. And I know that's coming up a lot more about the precision marketing. It's just so clear that you give them the information in the way they want to, and and that's just the way forward, really.
And actually, do you help your strategic alliance partners? Do you provide content and that sort of thing to them? So say, if they're emailing their members, do you provide all of that to them as well?
It's certainly on offer. It's absolutely on offer. We do videos, that type of thing. What you generally find is they're fairly planned out for their membership base. So whilst the idea for them is a great one, sometimes it's challenging for them to bring it into their marketing mix, right?
Right.
So, but it's always there on offer, absolutely, as far as content goes, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Interesting. And so who do you learn from then, Karen?
Who do I learn from?
In-person, books, blogs, presentations?
I learned from, we got an incredibly impressive community of entrepreneurs, right? So I learned from their stories, what works, their challenges, their focus, their learnings, talking to them all the time at the events. It's amazing what you pick up in conversation. And of course, I learned from our faculty of authors and speakers, Some of the speakers like Vern I've seen over 8 times, right? And each time, and that may seem a bit odd.
Not at all. I'm trying to think. We would have seen him at least 5 or 6, I think. And
each time you pick up something different, right? So, and we were discussing this earlier. Your business evolves, right, from year to year, and your focus and your priorities change. So, each year there's something that one of our speakers says that really resonates with you, that didn't resonate the previous year. And, and it's in relation to a focus that you for that year or a pain point, from my speakers, definitely. And in relation to, from a marketing standpoint, of course, I love Seth Godin's work. I sign up to his blog. I just find it thought-provoking. Other marketing gurus, David Meeman Scott, Joe Paluzzi, Jay Beer, all past speakers of ours. I find HubSpot and Content Marketing Institute a great resource. And I tend to focus on that side of things now because that's obviously the way we're going. And of course, your book, Toby, Web Marketing That Works.
Very kind of you, Karen.
Well, interestingly, our team refers to it constantly. There's post-it notes all over it, so we have been using it as a resource. So
that's great to hear. Thank you.
So, I'm not just saying that to appease you as an interviewer, but it is true. We have.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Oh, that's fantastic. So what's sort of next on the business/marketing front for you guys then?
Really our online offerings. We're looking, obviously from a marketing front, our big speaker, Jim Collins, is coming out in March next year, and we're having a lot of fun with that because obviously he's high profile. So that's taking us to places that we've never done before as far as experimenting. And it's really going to be a culmination of all my experience over the last 10 years and what's worked and what hasn't. So we're really clear about what we need to do in order to get the numbers that we want. So that's really exciting. And our online offerings, the Growth Faculty TV. I don't know if you've seen that, but, we've got about 70 videos of our speakers. They're all like 3 to 12 minutes in length, which are free to access. So that's our drive about, giving content back. It's rich with quality and insights and really kind of caters to those that are busy. So, really need 3 to 12 minutes of your time. And our book club, which we've just launched about 3-4 months ago, which is really about giving you access to the authors, online, 45 minutes every month. You get direct access to the author who gives you a synopsis of the book club. And again, we're catering to time and being able to deliver content in a different way besides outside of our seminar, our core product. So,
yeah. And I guess that gives you a bit more scale too, doesn't it, in terms of reaching out, adding value to that database as opposed to those who can only attend or, for those who can't attend in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also part of our membership as well, we never went down the membership route, but this will kind of give us that sort of, monthly income that we need to kind of maintain. Our events program doesn't necessarily give, so.
For sure.
Leveling it out, making our accountants very happy.
Good work. You've got to keep them happy. So any sort of closing thoughts or final piece of advice then, Karen?
I think really, it's pretty simple. Just listen to your customers and stay relevant. Make them feel special and specialize. You've really got to, it's that precision marketing, the 5th P they're calling it. That's the way forward, I think. The one size fits all just doesn't work anymore. I don't know if you found that yourself.
Yeah. Oh, certainly, yeah. So, Karen, finally, how can listeners connect with you if they're keen to find out more?
Okay, well, I'm on LinkedIn under Karen Beatty, and we have a LinkedIn group. The Growth Faculty has a LinkedIn group. Our Twitter account is @GrowthFaculty, and we've also got a page on Facebook, Growth Faculty page. So obviously our website, thegrowthfaculty.com.au. So lots of places, really.
Great. Well, I'll make sure they're all in the show notes and link to those. Karen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Toby.
So that wraps up the interview with Karen Beatty. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot about how she has built those strategic partnerships and relationships that she says has really been useful in terms of building her business. The show is brought to you by Web Marketing That Works, our book, and specifically the bonus 33 free templates that go with it. So head on over to bluewiremedia.com.au/book to grab those templates. The intent is to deliver actionable advice, so please pass on your feedback or questions. Let me know on email. My email is toby.jenkins@bluewiremedia.com.au, or I am @Toby_Jenkins on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, we would love you to leave a review on iTunes. So thank you so much and look forward to seeing you next time.